Hi everyone. Today is the day I'm going to talk about death with dignity and the MAID program, which is medical aid in dying. And I know I'm showing you a new view of I just go where the privacy is. So Death with Dignity is not just a name, but it's an organization advocating for the end of life choices and policy reform in the US. And I didn't even know about this until I had cancer. And it's really because it's just not, if you don't know someone who has been through it, or um, you just don't find it on mainstream news. It just doesn't make the headlines. There are 11 states, I believe, to date that have um, death with dignity available, and I wrote those down. So let me give those to you now. California, Colorado, District of Columbia, Hawaii, Maine, Montana, New Jersey, New Mexico, Washington, Oregon, and Vermont. And yes, I know the District of Columbia is not a state, not yet. If you are not residents of these states, except for Oregon or Vermont, then you're SOL. What can I tell you? I'm hoping that more states will allow out-of-state residents, because, I think everybody should have this right. Right now, it's Oregon and Vermont. And most of these, well, all of these states actually have some federal level laws. So they're very similar, with a few state laws that make them a little bit different. But I can only speak to you about Vermont. I don't know that much about Canada. I do know they have the MAID program. We've kind of adopted that saying, as well as death with dignity. They seem to be pretty interchangeable. But one thing about the US is that they are advocating, well, a lot of folks are advocating even death with dignity, to use the proper form, MAID, medical aid in dying. A lot of people use assisted suicide, or aid in, or assisted suicide, or euthanasia, and neither of them are true. It's aid, but assisted suicide seems that, like, maybe they're going to, maybe a doctor's going to be there. Maybe you'll have an IV, and that is not the case. In fact, that and euthanasia, which are very similar, are illegal in all states across the board. In fact, so the whole country, they cannot be there. You have to do this yourself. So those terms are not quite accurate, even though you see them in the media. Yeah, they kind of indicate the doctor's going to be there and help you die. No, they'll send you a prescription, but trying to think, I think it's legal though in Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and Switzerland. Switzerland has something called the Pegasus program. But there's probably a couple of other places in the world. But we're a little behind the times. Not that, euthanasia, it would be a little easier. It really would. I think that people that are interested in ending their life because they're suffering are myself, that this is going to be my choice. But I have to admit, just thinking about taking those meds that last, 5 minutes, it's a little scary. I've had many surgeries, and going into the OR and them just putting a mask over your face, or just doing it by IV, it's just, going to sleep. It's so natural. And it would be so nice to just not have to wake up if you're suffering. In any case, that's what I compare it to. I would like to think that it's just as easy when you drink this solution, but I'm getting ahead of myself. In any case, so medical aid in dying is where the doctor approves you for the program and gives you a prescription. It's not that easy though. First of all, I have to go to Vermont because Pennsylvania, where I am, does not offer it. The Death with Dignity organization, which is deathwithdignity.org, they advocate, they are very strong in the political aspects of this. They lobby, they introduce new bills to states. They have pushed quite a bit through, even though it's introduced doesn't mean it's going to make it to the floor and for a vote. And that's a problem because I've seen laws like go so fast and it's like, well, how come we're not doing this in order? Well, it's political. It's totally political. This is one of those things where you overturn Roe versus Wade. What other aspects of your body do you not have rights to? This is just my opinion, but and so let me just see something. I have a note down here. Yeah, I want you to consider going to deathwithdignity.org, see the work they're doing, sign petitions, consider donating for this great cause. They are a nonprofit and they work very hard. And they work very closely to the programs in each state as well. So as far as Oregon was started a little different than Vermont, but they've both been offering services to out-of-state residents. And at some point you had to move to Oregon. But now they have relaxed their policies, which is fabulous. Vermont's still like where I'd have to go is about 8 hours drive from here, and there's no direct flights, and so driving would be the easiest, but still not the easiest. I don't even drive on highways, so and half the time I'm not feeling good, so somebody else has to take me. So I feel kind of a burden in that respect. But so here's the process, and again, don't quote me on what if you live in one of those states and you want to go through this process, you really have to check with them and see how it compares to Vermont. But so only speaking on Vermont, when I made this decision, and we still don't know how long I have, but we didn't know how long I had then, and you have to make 2 requests. And I understand why. You make your first request, and you have to wait 2 more weeks to make a second request. Now, where do you do that? Okay, it should start with your oncologist or whoever is taking care of your terminal illness. It does not have to be cancer. There is a lot of dispute about dementia, however, because you have got to be of sound mind, at least at that time. And if they deem you that you're not, then they're not going to honor the requests that you made prior when you were healthier. And it's really very sad. Then there's other illnesses that get kind of a quick pass, like ALS, and I can understand that. You don't want to wait too long. So it starts with your doctor, and your doctor makes a referral to, well, if you live in one of those other states, then I don't know if there's a particular doctor you have to see or not, or if it can be just the one taking care of your illness at that time. I don't know if there's a special license or not, is what I'm saying. So what I've gotten was a referral to oncologists up in Burlington, Vermont. And that is the largest town, but it is the most furthest north, basically. So of course it couldn't be just right over the border. Um, and so I had appointments with, you have to have two doctors. One is a palliative care doctor and the other is an oncologist. Now, I have a palliative care doctor and an oncologist here in Pennsylvania. Okay, so you have to have these also double team in New York. In Vermont. Anyway, that won't get edited because that's not what I do. Anyway, but they are working on New York. So I went up and I was able to Zoom with the first doctor, but I had to be in the state. So you can't just do this from home. And I'd be afraid to cheat because, you know, you can check an IP address, I'm sure, very easily. But I didn't think about doing that until afterwards. In any case, you have to meet with one of the doctors in person and you can Zoom with the other. So I got just over the border to Bennington County and stayed at a bed and breakfast with my brother and my husband. And the very next morning that we stayed there, the next morning I Zoomed with the palliative care doctor, who's also in Burlington, but she can only see people on Mondays and the other one could only see people on Wednesdays, so we had to make kind of a time of it. So she approved. She says, and I was only there for consultation. I told her, I don't know how long I have. I can't make a second request if it's not time yet. But she said, we can still count this as the first request. And if within 6 months, if you're still healthy enough not to be approved for the second time, then it'll expire and you'll have to start the process over again. I said, okay, well, I was only here for a consultation, so I got more than what I expected. And then 2 days later, on Wednesday, we were in Burlington and I saw the oncologist in person, lovely person. But he said that if it had been him, he would have tried to talk me into something drastic as far as surgery, because surgery did not work. They would have had to take the entire colon, the entire bowel out, and then most likely that would have been a permanent bag. And I told him, I told the doctor not to do that, the surgeon. Because I just didn't want that quality of life, because I know where this is going eventually, and because the cancer is very rare and the prognosis is usually not good, and it's almost always not good. So he was like, oh, okay, I understand that, no problem. He just wanted to see where I was at, and he approved me for the first request as well. So then we went home, and I only had one question, and that was, well, if you live in Vermont, so you can get that medication, which, by the way, when they approve you on the second time, someone comes and delivers that medication, and you have to take it in Vermont. I couldn't take it back to Pennsylvania, and that's the only caveat you should know for sure. And I said, well, if I lived here, I'd have a home to go to. So where do out-of-state residents go? Well, I was the oncologist's very first out-of-state patient, because that's how new it was when I started this process. So so he was not able to tell me, and the palliative care person said that that doctor told me they were trying to get a network together, but they didn't have anybody yet. They were looking for B&Bs, Airbnbs, and guest houses, and even people's homes. So, I thought that was great, but I, checked in about 5 months later and just said, do you happen to have the network yet? She got me in touch with someone else who was putting together a network, and there was a couple, and I even have a phone number of someone or an email address of someone in Burlington that was opening her home up to people. There's definitely a charge for it. I have no idea what it is, but I felt, and I feel now, a lot more comfortable at least knowing there are options, because I would never do this in anywhere where I wasn't welcome to do it. I should say that. I was also shown that there are a lot of Underground Railroad people, because this is very political. Political and religious political. And I feel like the more this becomes the norm, the more we're going to have a difficult time and a fight on our hands. And that's why I want to stick close to Death with Dignity, and I want to, be part of that network. And I wouldn't divulge a lot of the stuff that I did learn. I think you have to be in it to do it, and it's like revealing, just is not necessary unless you're in the process. But believe me, there's people behind the scenes, and it's good to know if you're going through that. So let's see what I might have skipped over. I'm sure I skipped over something, and if I did, and I find out later, I will add it to the comments below, so be sure to look at that. I will also link the deathwithdignity.org down below. And I can also, the Vermont, sorry I'm stuttering, but the Vermont website is compassionatechoices.org. And that's in case you're on the East Coast and can travel easy enough to Vermont. Yeah, that's what I wanted to tell you. Was, as I said, it starts with a referral from your doctor. And when I went to the end of this process, I was told what they're having the biggest problem with right now is that doctors in other states are not referring their patients to Vermont, even upon request. Now, I don't expect any doctors to just say, here's your option, or Death with Dignity. It goes against what they're about. I mean, doctors are here to heal. And if you request it, they should honor it. But I don't expect them to just be blurting out that as an option. But when I talked to my doctor about it, she was wonderful. She knew a lot about it, but she didn't bring it up. I did. And she was very helpful. But what I was getting from compassionatechoices.org was that doctors were kind of dismissing it, and not kind of, they were dismissing it. They were just like, well, I don't know how that program works or who I would refer you to. And they just poo-pooed it. And so what that has done was made people scramble around trying to find their own doctors. They're calling everybody in Vermont. And it's not that it's necessarily a requirement, but people cannot get in for like a year now. I mean, I'm so lucky that I have already had established two doctors. So I'm hoping that some other state will open up to outside residents, because that's going to be a big help. I was hoping it would be New Jersey, because I'm 90 minutes from the border, and that would just be easier. I was born in New Jersey. I feel like I have some kind of, right. But apparently I don't, because I abandoned them and moved out. But this hopefully it'll just smooth out. I believe that the universe has a way of balancing it all. But the problem is that not only are they not inviting New Jersey, not inviting outside residents, there is an assemblyman named Robert Off who is trying to get the MAID program repealed. And the way the Supreme Court is right now, I wouldn't be shocked. So that makes me extra sad. I thought we would be moving forward, but we could be taking a step back. There's another state also that's having problems, but I cannot I can't think of what state that is. But if you go with deathwithdignity.org, you can sign up for their newsletters, and they tell you every step of the way how things are going. And if it's not you, and I hope it's not you, I hope you are healthy, but you will know someone in your life that might opt for this program. And then there are other people who I have run into with support groups for terminal illness that have been they've been denied. And I've seen this in Canada especially. They've been denied for whatever reason, and they're looking into Switzerland because you can fly over there and get into the Pegasus program, which is euthanasia, I believe. But I just read that that's like an $11,000 adventure. I mean, I don't know. That's not something I have. And it's certainly not something I would want my family to be in debt over. You know? So you're kind of between a rock and a hard place a lot. You know? So I have let that 6-month mark expire now. And I will go back to make my second visit, but my first request again. And I don't want to make too many first requests, but as long as I'm feeling good and I'm able, that's awesome. I'm even thinking about putting it off a little bit, but I'm not so sure. You know, I could use the trip just to use the trip. But I do have appointments scheduled later in May, and I was going to go up with my girlfriend, but I might still do it. I think that that's what I have, and what I have to tell you. So I want you to comment down below on any questions you have. I mean, I'm certainly not an authority, but I have sort of been through quite a bit of the program, and I'm a question asker. So I always want to know everything. So, and if you know something that I didn't mention, like, by the way, I would love to know that as well. In the meantime, if you like this video, I would really appreciate if you would like the video and click subscribe so that you can stay informed, keep up with me and my journey. Sorry. This is my mocktail. It's muddled basil in water, and then topped off with simply lemonade. This lemonade was strawberry because they didn't have the basic lemonade, which I like better. But the secret ingredients is Miralax. Yeah, my daily mocktail. I try to mix it up just a little bit. Anyway, that's my life now. I hope you're doing well, and I hope that you found this a useful video. And please leave me a comment. Okay? I love to hear from everybody. All right. You have a great day, evening, morning, wherever you are, whatever you're doing. Feel blessed because you're blessed, and I feel blessed because I am blessed. All right. Take care. Bye.